Welcome back, everyone. Today we are diagnosing a leaking toilet. It is leaking from the bowl connection at the top of the bowl from the underside. So we're going to drain the water out of this and try to figure out where the leak is occurring. So we're going to hold this handle down all the way through, and the water's successfully off, so you can hear that there's no more water coming back in. The problem we've got is we're going to pull this mechanism off to see where the leak is, and we still have residual water in the back of the tank. So we're going to need to get that water out, because the moment we take this off the bottom, it'll dump onto the floor. So we do that with a sponge or with a cloth, and we soak it up. We've got a bucket here, so we're just going to go through that process of emptying the residual water in the back of the tank. And remember, this is clean water. This isn't dirty water, even though it's black. I've noticed already that the gasket on the bottom of your flusher is actually spreading black everywhere. So that's probably where a lot of this black's coming from. So we'll see if that ends up being our culprit down there. We're going to release the water line from the bottom here. And grab our towel just to get a bit of the residual water. Even though we shut it off, the line from here up should still be full of water. We know there's no water pressure because otherwise it would be filling the toilet. And this top one. And this is where it was leaking from. And obviously the floor and the trim was getting all wet. So our drip concern is either on this hard line or it's at the gasket right at the bottom of the bowl. And that is that. So there's our old line, and we're going to replace that with a flex line. Okay, so we're going to take this off now. Get this loose. You see, none of this is terribly tight because it's plastic and it's on a rubber gasket. So the most important part of this is to snug up that rubber gasket, both on the line coming in from the water and at the bottom of the bowl on the inside. We go back to the top. We should be able to just pull this device right out. So there's the gasket right there. And look at how black it is. So that gasket's likely just been deteriorating. It no longer seats well on the bottom of the bowl, and that's probably where our leak is. But as we said, we're going to just switch both out. We're going to just give it a little wipe with a cloth and make sure that it's not got any debris on it. And that's it. You can see that it's just cut right into the porcelain, very clean. It's about a 1/4 inch thick or more. And our new gasket will sit down in there, and we just do a little bit of a compression on that, and it should seat really well. Grab our new one. In here, in our fill tube. This is our float arm, and this little device holds the fill tube into the center. I think it's a good idea to always keep the old one just in case this one doesn't fit. And the old one is metal. Important consideration when you're buying a replacement is to get the right length. Now you can go shorter. What shorter generally means is it will fill the bowl of the toilet with less water. But if it's too long, you won't be able to get the lid on the back of the bowl. So you definitely need to be the same length or slightly shorter. And we can see how this new gasket will fit in like the old one. So first we're going to do is put this in. And we know that our tank ball is going to come off of this piece here. So generally we can move this a little afterwards, but you can see this flat line right at the bottom. Sort of have that lined up flat with the front of the toilet as a guide, because as we tighten this, this will get more difficult to spin. And it should, because we're tightening it to get the seal. We're going going to start the screw on the bottom, or the bolt on the bottom, and then we're going to install the top part just to make sure we have everything lined up the way we need, and then we'll snug up the bottom. Next step is our water line. So your water line just pushes on, and then stick it in. So that little gap in here is ideally going to open up to go on to this fill tank. If it won't, then what we're going to do is go get the other one. The other one allowed us to put this down in quite a ways. Because we're going to go with this end piece here, this now isn't ideal. You don't want your hose coming up and over. So we're going to have to cut this hose and make it shorter because it needs to go directly down. So we're going to eyeball that up about there, and then we're just going to get a pair of scissors and snip that. Now, you can see that it's going to thread in here, but then by the time we get the bowl over, it's going to be hitting. So one of the things I do right off the bat is I know I'm going to bend this. So I just give her a little bend. Now it makes it a bit complicated for threading things in. Let me get our bowl. And this is going to take a bit to thread on. I want clear movement here. So now we're going to tighten up the bottom of this. And it's good practice to sort of have a hand at the top so that the top part doesn't move. Good and tight. Okay. Don't want to go crazy. You're compressing that gasket. You want it really snug, but you don't want to compress it to the point where it causes another leak. So now we are going to install our flex line. So let's go grab our flex line for the water. These have a little gasket in them, and they are compression fitting, but I still like to put a little touch of plumber's tape on the threads. So I'm going to thread on the metal connection at the tap first, because it's a finer thread. Snug that one up. So one of the things, if you've watched other videos for us, you know that I don't like these valves. I like the quarter turn ball valve. It's a little bit more secure. So here we've got it out of the way. So. All right. So I literally put that on as hard as I could with my left hand, hand tight. Okay, that's what we're looking for. You're not going to get a pair of pliers on there. You're not going to need to. And just because we're in here and we've got the new flapper, we're going to replace the flapper on this toilet as well. And it's pretty dry, so I think it's worth swapping it out. This piece here is all we need. So we're going to snip this here and snip this here. And there's our flapper replacement. And we do have another short on replacing these, so you can check that one out. Okay, we are ready to put some water back on. So we're going to turn this water on slowly, just make sure that we don't have any immediate leaks. The old paper towel trick, water visible. You can see wet spots quite easily in a paper towel, so we're good. I'm gonna add a bit more water pressure. Okay, so we're over our fill. So we're gonna adjust this back down. This adjustment shuts off that chamber valve. You see that our float is too high and it's going through the overfill, which goes into the toilet. And we have two ways of doing that. We can adjust here so that it shuts off the valve faster by this little plastic screw, tightening it up. The other thing we can do is adjust the ball valve down so that it shuts off earlier. So we're going to give it a flush. And we're just going to bend this guy down a hair. Now we can adjust again. But what we want to check here is we actually just want the optimal level for flushing. That looks like a pretty good flush. Lower water level means we saved on water. I think we can be happy with that. Flapper works properly, it's sealed, it's filling properly. We've got a lower fill level, so we're saving on some water. We'll do one last check on the outside to see if we've got any water leaks. Otherwise, this project looks to be finished. That's it.